So I got a few figures here from the MOTU Masters of the Universe Origins line, and I want to talk about the variation of the Skeletor and He-Man, which some people don't know, because I'm actually going to return these because Amazon, well, as you can see, this is how Amazon ships their products. But before I get rid of them, I wanted to show the difference. So a lot of people don't know that there is a variation of He-Man and Skeletor. They look almost completely the same, except I think the only difference is the comic book and the head is the vintage sculpt. So the easier one, we'll do Skeletor first because that's the easier one. This is the most common right here, and this is the vintage sculpt. The first thing I notice on the vintage sculpts is it doesn't have a number in this corner here. On European MOTUs, that's pretty common, but it'll also have European writing right there. But for the vintage sculpt, it just seems to not have a number in the corner at all. But the easiest way to know if you have a vintage sculpt or not is if you look closely, his mouth is closed on the vintage, and then when you look at the other one, the mouth is open. So figure wise, I don't really see any difference besides that. The other way that you can tell the difference is if you look in the corner of the comic book here, in the corner of the comic book here, the regular ones have a little sword sticking out. So you can see right there, there's a sword sticking out there too. On the vintage sculpt, there's a different comic book. There's no sword sticking out the side on either of these. So that's another way to tell the difference. As far as the back goes, I haven't looked yet. A little bit different. Not very much, just different characters. These have new for 20s, and these are new for 21. So the vintage sculpt, I'm guessing, came out in 2021. And the regulars are 2020. I'm sure the back of these aren't much different. Yeah, again, these are 21 and 20. Sorry, I wasn't looking through the lens, so I don't know if that was off center or not. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. For He-Man, the only difference that I've noticed really, well, you can see, I don't know if this makes a difference, but his shield is over here, and this one, the shield is in the middle. Now it looks like it probably just got tossed around because over here the shield is in the middle, and here the shield's behind his leg. The only difference in the vintage sculpt here is if you look at his head, his hair is slightly different. Where here, it's easier to tell by the top of his hair. You got kind of like that part in the middle, and then when you look at the vintage sculpt, his mouth is kind of a little bit more like tight closed, and this one's kind of like the smile is more open a little bit more, and then his hair is down more, and then on the vintage sculpt his hair is kind of like combed. It's got more lines in it. So the He-Man's a little bit harder to tell the difference. As far as everything else, I don't really see much of a difference. I noticed there was some writing on his foot. Never noticed that before. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that makes a difference of anything. But yeah, that was just a quick video on the vintage sculpt Skeletor and He-Man. I also got the Lords of Power Beastman, but as you can tell, it's really, really messed up. The bottom is pretty warped, so I'm returning all these. This one too is pretty warped. I was thinking of keeping maybe Skeletor and He-Man, but the way that I'm going at this line is if I can't get them in mint condition, then I kind of really don't want them. I'll just keep hunting until I find it in mint condition. If I find like a corner that's just got like a little flaw in it, like this one is just tiny bend in it, then I'll keep it. But or if it's a harder figure to find, like even Beastman has been hard to find. Like say if he just had that corner bent, then I'd think about keeping him. But yeah, this is just too fucked up. It's just I'll send it back and somebody else can have it. So I have a bunch more figures, and they're in the other room, but I'll go through those another day.